In this video, I'm going to teach you how to play Squirrels the card game. You are going to be right behind me, and we're going to play as a team against Carlos, Veronica, and John. We are going to take the 2 decks of cards in the game box and shuffle them together. For each player in the game, we deal 20 cards face down. We give these piles to each player, but no one can look at their cards yet. The rest of the cards in the deck are not used and they can be discarded. With the cards that we have, we are going to make 4 stacks in front of us. We do this by dealing 2 cards face down and the top card in each stack face up. When we're done, our cards should look like this. These cards will remain on the table. We should have 8 cards left. We are going to put these cards in our hands and we can look at them, but don't show them to any other players. This is how our cards should look. This is also a good time to tell you what the object of the game is. We want to discard as many cards as we can so we have the lowest total points at the end of each round. When a round is over, we add up our points. I will explain what these cards do as we play the game, but this is how the cards are scored. Remember, we want to get rid of cards so we have the lowest total score. It is now time to start the game. As you can see on the screen, our cards are at the bottom right of the screen. On the top left, we have the names of all the players sitting at the table. You and I are at the bottom of the table. Carlos starts the game and puts a 10 down. When number cards are played, they are played face up in the center of the table between the players. His turn is over. I will explain why in a minute. Veronica plays an 8. If there are existing number cards in the center, the new number cards are always placed on top of the pile. It is now John's turn. When a number card is placed in the center pile, it must either match or be below the value of the top card. In this case, John can place an 8 or any number below an 8. He cannot place a 9 or a 10. John decides to place a 6 card. It is now our turn. Based upon what we have learned, we know we can't play any number card above a 6. So the 10 and those 2 sevens are out. However, we can play a 5. But can we play 2 5 cards? Yes, we can. You can play multiple number cards if they have the same value. In this case, 2 5s are good. However, you can't mix numbers. In this case, you could not play a 5 and a 1. So back to our cards. We are going to play both of the 5s in our hand. They go on top of the pile. If we had wanted to, we could have only played one of the 5s. You don't have to play all of your number cards that you have of the same value. Most of the time, since the goal is to get rid of cards, you probably want to play as many as you can. It's back to Carlos. He's going to play another 5. So far, everyone who has played a number card has ended their turn. The reason is that unless there are 4 cards in the pile with the same value after you place your cards, your turn is over. In this case, there are 3 5s, so Carlos's turn is over. Veronica is also going to place a 5 down. Once the 4th card of the same value is placed, no other cards can be placed and the pile is discarded from the game. The player who puts the 4th card down with the same value gets to continue as if their turn just started. In this case, it was Veronica, so she gets to continue. As it turns out, she also has 4 1s. She places these down. Since there are 4 cards with the same value, these cards are discarded. If you have the cards that allow it, there is no limit to the number of times you can take another turn. Veronica thinks about her next move and then places a 4 card down. It is back to John. He's going to put down 2 fours. When you place number cards down, it is recommended that you state the current count and value of the cards on top of the pile. In this case, John says 3 fours. This helps everyone keep track. It is our turn now. We are going to place our 1 card in the hopes that it causes a problem for Carlos. On a player's turn, they must play at least 1 card or they pick up the pile of cards in the center. Carlos could play a 1 card if he has one, or he could play another type of card. We will discuss those cards later, but the key is that he must play a card. If not, he picks up the pile. In this case, Carlos doesn't have a card he can play. He has to pick up the entire pile of cards and place them with the cards he is holding in his hands. When that happens to a player, their turn is also over. It's Veronica's turn now. A wild card can be the value of any number card and works exactly like the number card. You must declare a wild card's value when you use it. Veronica has placed a 10 and a wild card. She says 2 tens as she places these cards. It is now John's turn. He's going to play a push card. When you use a push card, you push the pile in the center to a player of your choice. That player has to pick up the pile of cards and put them into their hand. In this case, John is going to push the cards to Veronica. She has to put the cards she had just discarded back into her hand. After it is used, the push card is discarded from the game. John's turn is immediately over after using a push card. And also, just so you know, if there are no cards in the center, you can still play a push card. The push card is simply discarded from the game and your turn is over. It is back to our turn. We are going to use our skip card. We notice that Veronica seems to have the lowest number of cards, so we're going to place our skip card in front of Veronica. This means she loses her next turn. Even with the skip card in front of her, players can still push cards to her. Only one skip card can be in front of a player at a time. So once her turn passes, the skip card is discarded from the game. However, before her turn comes around, she can be skipped again. As you can see, our skip card is now gone. Veronica is marked in red since she has a skip card in front of her. It is Carlos's turn now. Carlos puts down 2 eights. As Veronica's turn passes, her skip card is removed and it's John's turn. John places 3 fives down. It's now our turn. Now I'm going to show you how to use the squirrel card. Even though the squirrel cards look different, they all work exactly the same. When you place number cards, you need 4 cards of the same value to clear the pile and continue your turn. However, with the squirrel card, once you place it on top of the pile, it immediately clears the pile. The squirrel card is discarded and you get to continue your turn. That is why the squirrel card is the most powerful card in the game. As you place the squirrel card, it is recommended that you say squirrel. Just like with the number cards, after the pile is cleared, you get to continue your turn. You can play another squirrel card or any other card that you have available. Since it is still our turn, let me explain about the stacks of cards in front of us. The face-up cards on top of each stack are used just like the cards in your hand. There is no difference. They are just on the table instead of in your hand. In this case, we are going to use a 7 from one of the stacks and the 7 that we are holding. We place these cards in the center pile. After a face-up card is played from one of the stacks, we pick up the face-down card that was below it and it goes in our hand. We do not show it to the other players. This card cannot be used right now, but it can be used next time we get a turn. It is a 2 and goes into our hand. Our turn is over. We have placed our sevens and picked up the card from our stack. For the purpose of the video, we are now going to skip ahead in time to John's turn. John placed 3 eights. On our turn, I'm going to explain how the blind card works. The last face-down card in any stack is called the blind card. Whenever you can play a card, you can play the blind card. However, it must be played by itself. Only one blind card can be used at a time. You flip the card over so everyone can see it. If the value of the blind card exceeds the top card in the center pile, you must pick up the entire pile and place it in your hands. Your turn is over. Otherwise, it works just like the other number cards do. If it is equal or below the top card in the pile, in this case a 7, you place it on top of the pile and your turn is over. If it was the fourth number in the pile, in this case an 8, you would clear the pile of cards and your turn would continue. However, say it was a 2, you would place it in the center pile, but you can place any of your other cards on top of the pile that also have the same number value. In this case, your blind card was a 2. You also have several 2 cards. You can also place these. Make sure you pick up the second card that was under the 2 and put it in your hand. What if a blind card is not a number card? It will follow the effects of whatever card it is. Squirrels clear the pile. You would place the skip card in front of another player. You would push the pile to another player. And a wild card can be any number you want. Okay, I have shown you how all the cards work. Let's talk about how a round ends. The first player to discard all of their cards triggers the end of the round. That player is now safe. No cards can be pushed to them or skip cards can be placed in front of them. They have 0 points for that round. They are always considered having the lowest score for that round. Let's say we went out first. Continuing clockwise, each player gets one more turn to get rid of cards on their last turn. Like normal gameplay, on a player's final turn, they can continue their turn if they have the cards that allow it. A skip card can be placed in front of a player before their final turn and will prevent them from taking their final turn and discarding any cards. Except for the safe player, any player can have cards pushed to them or a skip card placed in front of them. This applies even if their turn has passed or they have discarded all of their cards. The scores for each individual player are added together at the end of each round. Multiple players can have 0 points for a round if they are able to discard their remaining cards on their final turn. Unless players agree to a different number, a game lasts 3 rounds. After the final round of the game, the player with the lowest total score wins. In the event of a tie between players at the end of the game, the one who had the lowest score in the final round wins. If they both have the same score in the final round, the game is a tie. In this case, Veronica was the winner. That wraps up this video on how to play Squirrels the card game. You can also read the rules, which give different examples and explain things in a little more detail. You can also visit our website to get the latest information. Thank you for supporting Squirrels the card game.